Well, time now to have a look at your morning newspapers. With us, the Executive Chairman of Cicero Group, Ian Anderson, and the journalist and writer, Nabila Ramdani. Welcome to you both. Very good morning.
Good morning.
One story dominating others in the papers this morning, the New Year's honours list, Ian. And we always focus on the famous people to get honours, don't we? And there are some big names in there.
There's some very big names in there. It's sort of showbiz central today, I think, Tom, in terms of some of the headlines. The Beagleys we've got here in the Mirror. Saturday Night with a K, Fever as well. A headline that a couple of the tabloids have gone for. Yeah, it's a real kind of showcase, if you like, of sort of the best of British and beyond. Got the Bee Gees, we've got Ringo Starr. I mean, a question I've always got is, why do some of these folks have to wait so long to get an honour? I mean, there's a bit of controversy as well about, well, there's always controversy with the honours, let's be honest. You know, you kind of like some of the figures or you don't. They're beamed into your television rooms almost every day. So there's always controversy, but, you know, I quite like the honours. I think the honours are a good thing. I think we should celebrate those who play a major part in our national life. And great to see Eamon Holmes there as well, formerly of this parish, I see too. Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely. Congratulations.
He was very excited. Next year, it's going to be 38 years on TV.
Wow.
Eamon. So he said this was just a lovely way
Not continuously.
to celebrate that. Not because he took a couple of breaks, went home to sleep, not too much though.
Nabila, what do you make of it? As Ian was alluding to there, the controversy surrounding, you know, the cronyism aspect of the New Year's honours, but also some people think they're completely irrelevant and should go.
Well, some people would always argue that it's a bit outdated and we should, you know, get rid of this altogether. But I have to say that, you know, showbiz is in the end what attracts people to, you know more about real life, and it's often a peg to get to read about ordinary people who have done extraordinary service to their communities and indeed have been involved in very great charitable causes, and we get to read about them as well. But I have to say that I've always been a great fan of the Bee Gees and Ringo Starr. To me, it's the ultimate pop star name. You can't get more a more pop star name than that. But I think what we have to remember is that they also, if nothing else, groups like the Bee Gees and the Beatles remind us what, you know, the influence they had on millions of lives. And crucially, we need to be remembered that they were an extraordinary soft power, in terms of cultural influence around the world at a time when Britain is redefining its position and indeed its image around the world. We have to remember what great exporters of British cultures they are. Interesting.
And the other story dominating broke late last night. Andrew Adonis, former Labour minister, has resigned as chair of the National Infrastructure Commission. He said that Brexit is a dangerous populist and nationalist spasm worthy of Donald Trump, Nabila.
Yes, indeed. And he goes on to criticise Theresa May, in fact, saying that she's become the voice of UKIP, and she's the voice of UKIP and the extreme nationalist right wing of the Tory party. I think, you know, his comments are very clearly well planned, and they come at a time where, you know, to cause as much damage as possible to the Brexit project. He clearly chose a quiet time to, you know, that would make, he knew it would make the headlines, and they will of course be, his comments would be hugely welcomed by those who want to stop the Brexit project. But I think it's very important to bear in mind that Lord Adonis is also in fact a member of the Labour Party, and he's probably just as keen to see an end to the Tory rule as he is to Brexit in general.
Ian, is this an elite out of touch with 17 million people?
Well, I mean, we couldn't do a paper review to end 2017 without using the word Brexit, could we? Look, I mean, to me, this is simple. Adonis is going to vote against the government's EU withdrawal bill when it gets into the Lords in January. He's, in a way, doing the honourable thing. He's resigning before he starts voting against the government that he's currently the infrastructure czar with. I wonder about these czars, though. I mean, you know, Alan Milburn went 2 or 3 weeks ago, didn't he? Did he jump before he was pushed? Lots of kind of questions. But for me, Andrew is going really before he starts voting against Theresa May, and he is going to start voting against Theresa May when the Brexit legislation gets into the Lords.
Okay, and Ian, just to stick with you, we've got a story from the Times. So last week, we got the news that the passports were going to be going back to the British blue. Turns out it wasn't even blue in the first place.
Well, if you have a look at my Instagram, I dug out my blue, black British passport last week out of the attic, and I got a lot of love back to me saying, that's not blue at all. So the Times has done a little bit of a sort of challenge back to the Home Office here, saying, you know, this very strangely coloured passport that nobody remembers from 15, 20 years ago, is it blue? Is it black? The Home Office have come back and said it will be the traditional blue colour, but frankly, it looks black to me, and I think it looks pretty much black to anybody else that had one before.
Interesting.
So we're getting it wrong.
Nabila, just very quickly, the front page of the Daily Mail talking about 800 bank branches shutting in just 1 year. Bit of a scandal, or is this just the changing way of banking?
Well, I think this is a trend that has been going on for years, actually, and the Mail highlights that. It says the 8 major groups, the 8 major banks have shut down between 8,000 branches over 2015 and 2016. So it seems that the trend is continuing, and it seems to me that almost any type of business wants their clients to be online nowadays. And if you pop into a bank where, you know, there's very little to do for customers nowadays, and they, you know, you deal with third parties in the end and doing things for you. And I think it's very clear that every sector nowadays, whether it's banking, commerce or anything else, you know, want people to operate online, and that's the reality.
I mean, Ian, how often, when's the last time you went into a bank? How often do you go into them?
Well, probably like most people, to pay something called a cheque into a branch. That's the major reason I need to go in.
A cheque?
A cheque. Have you heard of those?
I vaguely remember.
Vaguely remember something called a cheque.
Explain.
The issue for me about this is exactly as you say, Nabila, we're just going to see more and more of this because bricks and mortar high street branches are very, very expensive for banks or lots and lots of other retailers, actually. The issue for me is if you're an old person, if you're a disabled person, what are you most comfortable with? I do think the banks do need to work harder in making sure that there's access for people that actually want that face-to-face support.
Plenty still rely on them. We've got plenty more to cram in here as well. Join us after the break and we'll have a further look at your papers, rather.
You're watching Sunrise. Ian and Nabila are still with us going through this morning's papers. And I don't know about you guys, just after Christmas, I have overindulged. Lots of turkey, lots of potatoes, I could go on, but I won't go on. But however, there's a patch which could help in losing fat. This can't be true.
Well, this is a very attractive story, and especially when, you know, it comes to New Year's resolution, usually at the top of the list is to get back in shape, lose weight. And for those who are resolved to do just that, there's a great story here in the Mail which promises you that, you know, using a tiny patch, you could cut fat by 1/3 in just 4 weeks. So it sounds very attractive indeed.
Where can we get this thing? Tell us immediately. Where is this available? Is it available?
Well, it is a bit technical, I mean, because it says that it turns, effectively what it does, it turns energy storing bad white fat into energy burning brown fat over just 4 weeks. But the catch is here. Further down in the story, it says it has only been tested on mice.
Sure.
So it has to...
Ian, I imagine if we had any personal trainer or nutritionist or doctor, they would say, I don't think so.
Oh, Tom, I'm going to slap these patches on them and I'm coming out of the studio, given what I've eaten at Christmas, probably like everybody else.
Get the mice.
Let's give it a whirl. Let's see what happens. I mean, look, the nicotine patch has proved to be a huge success. If they can replicate what they've done with the nicotine patch with the fat patch, then well, this could be a blockbuster product.
I'm going to put my common sense doctor hat on, even though I'm not a doctor, to say a balanced diet and exercise is still your best option. Nabila, Ian, we'll be back for more papers in the next hour. Let's catch up with the sport, shall we? Gavin has the headlines.